Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Rafael Cortez, another wholesaler killing it in the Phoenix market, and he's here to share how he was able to generate over $1 million in fees 3 years in a row. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, broker and owner of Stunning Homes Realty, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the only MLS for off-market wholesale properties, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires, so if that's something you want to do, let's connect on Instagram. If you're excited for today's show, please give me a wave, give me a thumbs up. And as a friendly reminder, I don't charge a dime for this show. I don't make any money doing this. So here's all I ask. This is what it costs for you all to listen to this show. We're trying to reach more people right now on YouTube, so we need more subscribers. And the only way I can get that to grow is if you guys subscribe right now, click on the bell as you watch and listen to this episode. So that's how we tell YouTube that this is actually interesting content. In addition, if you have a friend that needs to listen to this episode, please tag them right away, and that way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please post your questions for Rafael to answer. You ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. So first question is, what got you into real estate?
An accident, actually. I did it. I wasn't really planning on getting into real estate. I had a medical transportation at the time, and it was running fairly well. So I wanted to just diversify my income, and I went to classic. I went to a Robert Kiyosaki training, saw real estate, and figured I would do a flip after that. So I got into it. My first project was a rehab. Horrible, by the way. Yeah, big learning lesson. But that's how I got into it. And then from that point forward, I've always just done different things in real estate.
And when was that?
That was 2000. Towards the end of 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went to your seminar and you got into your first flip. Did you lose money? Did you make money?
Actually, no. I got lucky. I didn't make money. Well, maybe I think I made about $300.
Okay.
But it ended up being like a 6-month project, holding all kinds of stuff I didn't want to hold on to. The area was terrible.
Yeah.
The property had all kinds of problems with it that I never even considered when I was walking into it.
What is this area that was terrible?
It's right by I-17. If you're looking at central Phoenix, right by I-17 and 19th Avenue.
I had a very interesting experience there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go. Sounds mean, but I wouldn't go look at the house without my gun.
Yeah, I went to go evict someone there for the bank back when I was doing foreclosure listings, and I went over there to go, knock on the guy and tell him that he had to move out.
Yeah.
I pulled up, I left, I sent an email to the bank. I am not evicting anyone in this neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
If you want to fire me, but I am not evicting anyone in this neighborhood. Yeah. Okay, so that was the first flip. Did you have to invest anything into the Kiyosaki program?
I did end up buying one of the $10,000 programs, and it was all right. I mean, it just gave me like an overview of real estate, and I didn't know anything about real estate at all. So, I mean, it was helpful. I think that the thing that kind of made the whole thing worthwhile was that they took about 15 minutes during the first weekend that I went to it to kind of touch a little bit on wholesaling. And that's the very first time I heard about wholesaling. And the concept of taking a piece of paper here and selling that piece of paper without having to pick up a hammer and any of that hassle. I mean, it was very, very appealing to me. So it's like, let's give that a shot.
So you like wholesaling more than flipping?
Way better. Yeah.
Okay. So then when did you start wholesaling?
I didn't start wholesaling until maybe 2013 or 14.
Okay, so were you flipping along this time?
Yeah, I did a few flips during that time, and it was, I mean, I was pretty much dabbling with it. I didn't have my real estate license yet. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I would look at a property, and then, I didn't go all in. It was more of like a hobby. I didn't jump in with both feet because I still had the transportation business that I was running. So but I didn't start wholesaling until I started thinking about selling that business and did a couple of transactions.
Right.
Wholesaling, it just made perfect sense.
And then did you immediately, were you wholesaling your own, or did you immediately connect with Sean?
I did wholesale my own for about a year, and I actually listened to his podcasts. I listened to a few others, but I started just following the stuff that he teaches, the free stuff, and I closed a couple of deals. Yeah. And I mean, I became a raving fan.
Right.
So,
was it you that Sean Terry called and you were like blowing him off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it happened by accident because I thought it was one of my friends, and we had been talking about it, and I told him, listen, man, they're like, you can do this thing with paper, and then you sell it, and then you make whatever spread is $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and he didn't believe me, and he thought I was messing with him.
Your friend.
My friend, right? So I had submitted an application because he put out an email that he was looking for an acquisitions, and I had just sold my transportation company. Mm-hmm. So I was just sitting there trying to figure out something to do, and I ended up submitting the app. He calls me one day and he goes, is this Raphael? And I thought it was my friend, so I just blew him off and I hung up the phone. Yeah, it was crazy. He calls back and he goes, "This is Sean Terry." Like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I felt like an idiot. And then I went to meet him and then started working for him.
So you're wholesaling for a year on your own,
right?
How did you do that?
A little under a year, yeah. How did I do? Mm-hmm. I closed 3 deals. The spreads weren't that thick. I think the biggest one was about 8,700. Mm-hmm. And the smallest was I think 3, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a slight idea of what it was by the time I started working with him.
And the reason I'm asking that is because there's a lot of people right now that are kind of like floundering, right? A lot of people that listen to our show aren't all doing 10 deals a month. We got a lot of people that are brand new or they're doing 1 deal a month.
Right.
And so I want to get your perspective. You did it on your own and then you joined a team, right? Yeah. So how was your experience doing it on your own? How was your experience working on Sean Terry's team? And then obviously later off doing it on your own again. But
yeah, man, it was unreal. It's completely different. I mean, when you go through, if you built any business, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22. So I built businesses before, but whenever you're in that process and that grind, it's just everything seems and weighs like a big rock, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, I mean, the way that I see it is when I joined his company, I mean, that rock just kind of got lifted, and I was able to perform better with all the added stress of making ends meet or making stuff pan out.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was what
all
it did.
All the weight wasn't on you.
Right. What it did was just kind of got rid of that mind block that I put myself in when I was closing 2 or 3 deals and
right. So
before I joined,
let's talk about that transition, right? So what year was it that you joined Sean's organization?
2014.
So you joined his organization in 2014.
Right.
And you get thrown into the fire.
Pretty much.
I mean, was it you and like a couple other acquisition guys, or what was that organization at that time?
While I was there were a few that kind of came and went. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, he was spending a lot of money in marketing, and I was getting the bulk of it.
Yeah.
So I had my first week, I closed 6 deals.
Wow.
And I felt like a freaking rock star, man. And of course, Friday comes along, we look at the numbers, or Monday comes along, we look at the numbers, and we dropped 5 of them, and 1 didn't close. So I didn't do anything that first week.
Wait, what do you mean?
I locked them too high.
Oh.
So I was afraid of actually running the numbers and making sensible offers. So I ended up blocking a lot of deals. I focused on getting deals, right? Mm-hmm. So I brought in 6 deals, and it felt great. And then Monday comes along during the team meeting, and like none of them stuck. Yeah. The one that stuck didn't close. So
so offer.
Yeah, heavy, big goose egg. But I was going on about 25 appointments a week, like on average about 5 appointments a day.
Wow.
And it's just constant repetition. I mean, there's no magic, pill. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
So your first year with Sean,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you had 1 year where you did 3 deals on your own. Less than a year, did 3 deals on your own. First year with Sean, how many deals did you do?
Honestly, I don't know how many deals. I know the revenue was 1.2 mil that first year.
So that first year,
wholesale, fees, wholesale spreads.
And then the next year,
it went up to 1.4, and the third one was close to 1.6.
So 1.2, 1.4, 1.6.
Yeah.
And it's closed revenue.
Right. Deals that, got locked and they got pushed.
Right. So, one of the things I want to kind of impart on people that are listening to the show is you have an advantage in the living room or at the dining table.
Yeah.
So, you don't like people bragging about this about you, but you've got multiple degrees in psychology.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how that was helpful in you in winning inside at the dining table or the living room.
Man, I think that's a one tool that everybody should learn, not just for the sake of real estate or wholesaling or negotiation, but I mean, it's all around it. It's communication based. Basically, it's what it comes down to. But what it is, it's being able to understand the way that the other person communicates. We all have different behavioral tendencies, different strengths, and whenever you're able to identify those, and you can adapt yourself to that type of communication, whatever it is that you're saying, the rapport you're trying to build, the clarity of the stuff that you're actually talking about is going to come across a lot better.
Yeah.
Than if you don't process that sort of thing. And when I started working with Sean, I was actually going through my degrees, and so it was pretty cool that I was learning stuff in school and then applying it right away, and one-to-one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I love going on appointments, even if it was a crappy appointment and I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere because of a previous phone call or whatever. I would still try to go there and sit down, right across, so I could learn about that person. So,
well, I think that's a huge nugget, right? Is that even if you do feel like there's a low probability appointment,
yeah,
when you're learning, you want every rep, every at bat. Don't disqualify a lead just because you don't want to go or because it's a low opportunity.
Right.
When you're learning, take every opportunity to learn.
Yeah, every moment at bat, man, it's gonna make you better.
Yeah.
And that's how I was looking at that whole thing. I mean, where else am I gonna get, that big amount of marketing dollars, and take the benefit of having all those appointments? It'd be crazy if I didn't take advantage of it.
Right.
So it was like a really, really cool internship, trial by fire, and making good money. So
so let's dive a little bit deeper into that, right? So what was the couple of nuggets as far as how on the communication? What were some 2 or 3 things that someone doesn't have to go through the whole process, but like 2 or 3 biggest nuggets that you can give somebody on how to win in the living room?
So usually it comes down to the term rapport, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to understand how somebody communicates, and then I'm building rapport. I'm building rapport this way, building rapport that way. I had a conversation that lasted 2 hours, so I got really good rapport. And I think you and I have talked about it before. It's you can have really long, lengthy conversations and go into some, private personal stuff, but it doesn't mean that you've created the rapport necessary for that person to do any type of business with you or to actually trust you as a person. However, when you start reading people and for things like body language,
mm-hmm.
There are things that are gonna give you, there's subconscious things that are gonna give you really good and solid. A really solid idea of that rapport is being built. For example, isopraxism, which is mirroring.
Yeah.
When you're talking to somebody, they can be doing very well and looking at you and having eye contact and all that stuff. But the body language is going to tell you something else, right?
Right.
If you look at the feet, this one's crazy. The feet they're always pointing wherever the person wants to go. So if you've ever been at a bar or at a restaurant and you see 2 people talking to each other and one of them is kind of turning sideways, pointing, it means that person wants to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So just being keen to that sort of thing when you're at an appointment can help you just pull it back a little bit from whatever it is that you're saying, mm-hmm. or pressure more into it. For example, if I know that I have full mirroring and isopraxism, because it is subconscious, people can't track it even if you try.
Mm-hmm.
If I have them and I see them, they're with me, I'll, whatever it is that I'm talking about, for example, if I'm at the offer, I'll just go deeper into that one topic. If they get anxious and start pulling away, I'll kind of pivot from that topic to something else. And when you're able to navigate a conversation like that, it almost feels like there's no negotiation going on. Mm-hmm. With Sean, I would take the guys that were coming in and go on training, so they would shadow me for a week, and I close the deals and bring it back to the table, and the comment was made a few times like, "You're not negotiating, you're getting layups." And it's there's so much going into that one-on-one conversation when you're actually reading, when you're pulling back, when you're pushing forward on a point, and just reading all the micro movements that somebody does.
Yeah.
So body language is huge. Tonality, of course, it's basically what it comes down to is we're all algorithms, and we do have, different behavioral strengths. And if you know how to understand a behavioral strength, you're going to know how to talk to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that behavioral strength, you're going to know whenever they're talking back to you through body language and not necessarily words, or key, or keywords, or, things that go into conversation. So picking up on all that stuff it's crucial. Why? Because you can apply it, in negotiation. That's one. Friendship, it's another. I mean, have you ever been, for example, if I say, hey Steve, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Doing all right, right? And if I lean forward and I say, hey Steve, how you doing?
You're very creeped out right now.
Yeah. So even your demeanor changed.
Yeah.
Even your demeanor changed. And
right.
I mean, right now we just met, we're playing, but even something as simple as that can have a big impact, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you're aware of that sort of thing, you can use it as a communication tool. Mm-hmm. So you pull back from a particular conversation, or you press on with that particular conversation.
So there's something always going on in the back of your mind, where you're monitoring your body language and their body language.
It sounds like it's a lot of work. After a while, you start getting used to it, and it becomes kind of second nature. But again, it's reps, man. It's reps, and I've been playing with this stuff for the last, 10 years or so since I came across it, because I actually used it a little bit when I was building my transportation company. On the hiring, on the training dispatchers, and it was for customer service, purposes. But it just got me curious enough that I started getting into it, and that's actually one of the reasons that I became an organizational psychologist.
So one thing that was interesting to me was we had met before, right, when you were speaking on stage at Extreme Freedom, and then we've since been hanging out in the same room once a month at Brandon's event.
Cool. Yeah.
And there was a role play where you and I were supposed to negotiate this deal. And we were negotiating. After 15 seconds, like, I'm not talking to this guy anymore. He's a freaking avocado. You want to talk about what that means?
Yeah, it was kind of like the running joke. So I'm a very high driver. Mm-hmm. I like things done, quickly. I get to the point and everything. I'm able to adapt my communication style when I'm with somebody else, right? But if we're looking at disc profiles, and we had it coded differently with Sean. Mm-hmm. We used a couple of different colors, but the one of the behavioral tendencies was a high S, high supportive, and high analytical. And between the yellow and the green, it just turns into an avocado, and that's like my foe to negotiate with, because I'm so I'm fast. I can negotiate with somebody who's a high driver and be in and out in 15 minutes with the contract, and we're best friends. But when I have to really look at the details and break it down, and that to me is taxing, so it takes energy out of me. And we were sitting at that mastermind, and I saw you, and your mind was set. Your mind was wrapped around one idea, and I think I missed it towards the end of the conversation. I missed the offer because you put a number in your head, and I think I missed it by a couple $1,000s.
You weren't too far off, yeah.
Yeah, on what I could offer, and I just didn't get to it by a couple $1,000s. But you didn't give in on it. So talk about the yellow, green, red, and blue. Yes.
So what are those four colors mean?
Disc profile. It's it's called everything. It's pretty much like anything that you're talking when you're that you're talking about when you're looking at behavioral tendencies or personalities, that sort of thing. It's all derived from DISC, and it's been called different things through time, but it's one of the oldest, most like solid, types of research that has been done. So basically, there's four types of buckets, right? Think that way. So you have D, which are your high drivers. So you have I's, which is your influencers, and S's, who are highly supportive, and then C's, or calculating or analytical, right? So your high drivers are very quick, very fast paced, usually loud. And then your your influencers can also be very, quick, fast paced, but they're more people oriented. When high drivers are task oriented, right? Yeah. And then you have supportive, which and I actually have this on my my operating system, we have to recognize them when we're talking to them,
Mm-hmm.
the lead gen people and the acquisition guys. But when you have S's or high supportive, they're a lot more monotone. They're more reserved. Their conversations are more calm and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your analytics, which is they substantiate data. You better be prepared whenever you go to the closing table with numbers, comps, and everything better make sense. Otherwise, you're going to lose that rapport.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about it is that when you start tagging people, for lack of a better word, and you start recognizing, okay, this person is a high driver, this person is a very analytical, this person is a you can also if you practice it right, you're going to learn the algorithm. Like each one of the categories has certain things that or tendencies that are drawn to. For example, high drivers are one of the biggest things or biggest fears is fear of being taken advantage of. Because, for example, me, I don't calculate. I don't sit down and process too much information before I pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always hasty, right? It's one of my biggest fears. Like, all right, I'm gonna shoot first and aim later. Hopefully, my fear is that I won't miss.
Yeah.
So when you start understanding all that stuff, and you're able to see somebody and meet with somebody at the table for a closing, I mean, you know what you can talk about. You know what you cannot talk about. Mm-hmm. You know what's going to make a difference in conversation, what they're going to be interested in, right? Simply because of their behavioral tendencies and strengths.
So is there a quick way for you to identify if someone's S or C?
Yes, there is. The easiest way to do it is it's body language and tonality. Mm-hmm. Basically, if somebody is... and there's trainings out there, but if somebody, what I just said, if somebody's a high driver, you're going to be looking at somebody who's very dynamic in communication, and they're very task oriented, so bottom line oriented, right? If you're talking to somebody who's a high influencer, they're going to be dynamic in communication as well, so loud, vivid, but they're going to be more people oriented than task oriented. They're usually like more disorganized. But when you're talking to and I'm a high DI. That's a crazy thing. So my analytical side, it's learned behavior. But when you're talking to somebody who's a high supportive, they're going to be more monotone, kind of mellow, more chill. It doesn't mean that they're not enjoying the moment. They're not processing information. It's just the way that they communicate, and they're going to be very, very people oriented. Yeah. So when you're having a conversation with somebody who's high as, you can pick up words, right? If the whole conversation is about them taking care of their aunt or grandma or some, you can have a pretty decent idea of what the priorities are, with that person. When you're talking to somebody who's very analytical, they're also more monotone, kind of, laid back and reserved, kind of communication, but they're very task oriented. Yeah. So they're going to be monotone and usually talking about bottom line kind of stuff, statistics, not necessarily stuff that's going to move the needle, but details, the finer details. Okay. Something that makes sense and logic. So they're logic oriented.
So I've taken a DISC
crash course
test multiple times. And one thing that's consistent is the S. The D and the C oscillate. Sometimes I'm a D, sometimes I'm a C. I guess depends on the situation, right? But I'm an S, meaning I'm pretty good at the poker table because you can have a hard time reading me, right? Pretty stoic. Yeah. But we were at the meetup, in the last meetup, I was frustrated because of the seating arrangement, and it just wasn't conducive to how many people we had. We told them how many people were bringing.
That was a big turnout.
It was a huge turnout, but we told them how many people were coming, and they just didn't have it set up correctly, right? So I'm in the front of the room, looking in the audience, trying to figure out, how can we organize this next time? And you gave me a suggestion, right? Why don't we just set it up as a classroom style? I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. But go back to being pretty stoic. Most people can't really read me. And before I even said something else, she's like, hold on, you don't like my idea. You're reading me, right? Yeah. You don't like my idea. What don't you like about my idea? So I thought that was impressive because no one else really, calls me out on that. So how are you able to read me even if I am, if I have a poker face?
It's a lot of it's in micro movements. Pacifying movements, if you want to call it that. So what happened there, and I recall, I think we were towards the back of the room.
We were in the very front of the room looking out across.
Oh, yeah, because the door was on the opposite end. So, deep end of the room.
Yeah.
So you did, what you did was you were motioning something with your hands, and then you dropped your hand and you cover it with the other one and just kind of rub your arm a little bit. So, I mean, that's a micro movement, but it's a pacifying movement. It's a comforting. Think of it as like a
binky.
I mean, it was your blankie for that, for that 1 second. So you went like that, and not necessarily processing. It was just uncomfortable. So so it was all right, cool. And then I mean that to me was a clear tell. But when you're used to doing that all the time, it becomes it just pops up.
Yeah.
So the more you practice, the better you get, and the better you can communicate. For example, we were able to kind of carry that conversation a little bit, further because I picked that up, and it obviously resonated with you because you remember it today.
Yeah. So, but that's I think that's the huge thing, right? Because we talk about doing $1 million 3 years in a row. Obviously, it helped to be a part of Sean's organization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you still have to win, and in fact, you and I were competing without knowing we were competing at that time. So this is why I wanted to, for everyone to talk about this, because there is something here as far as, getting better at communicating through DISC, through psychology. I mean, you said there's a master's in psychology. So these are things that maybe they can't learn all these things quickly, but at least they should be aware of these concepts.
Right.
Because this will make it easier to close. Because just that little thing, right? Me just rubbing my arm, you could tell like you kept the conversation going further versus like, all right, this conversation is over and we're on to changing the topic, which is like my go-to move. I'll just change the topic. Yeah.
Well, that's a very clear example of what I was talking about earlier. Whenever you're negotiating, you press for something and you're able to pick it up. That's, I pressed for something else. So I pivoted from, what I was talking about because I saw that. I'm like, all right, so that's rubbing you off the wrong way, literally. And kind of, pushed a little more into it, and we just opened up the topic.
Right.
And then I think we came up with another venue that was a potential, the conversation evolved a little bit after that. So,
right.
But that's a beautiful thing about communication and understanding how to approach people. It's not about deceit. It's not about, reading minds. It's simply just understanding, okay, how can my communication be better?
Yeah.
How can I convey what I'm trying to say in a manner that they're going to understand?
Yeah.
So
is there a reference book, I don't know, online course, something you could recommend somebody to get better in the DISC and the body language? I mean, we know like communication, right? It's 55% body language.
Right.
So is there something that you could recommend? Like, this is something that you need to check out.
Body language. I do. I can't recall the titles, but I can send them to you. You can put them in the footnotes. There's a few books out there that I think are really good. Anything in DISC, really. I mean, like I said, it all stems from the same stuff, and you'll see it dressed up as different, products or packages or whatever. But everything evolves from those four main buckets. I mean, you have subcategories, right? And because we have, strong tendencies and the primaries and secondaries and all that stuff applies into it. But anybody who wants to learn about it, all you got to do is, look it up online. Just DISC assessment. You're going to get, 1,001 results. And
well, there's no shortages of results. That's what I was asking. Is there any particular resource you'd recommend?
Off the top of my head, I have a few books. Actually, one of the best books is called DISC, D-I-S-C.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the author, but that's the name of the book. And it's more of a textbook than a traditional read.
Right.
Yeah, but it's DISC. It's crazy. I'm not lying. I'm not trying to dodge or get out of that question. But I'll look up those titles and I'll send them to you.
All right. Sounds good. And we'll post them later on down below. So you made a pivot, right? So 3 years with Sean, and then you went off to do your own thing. So, well, I guess before we even transition there, working with Sean, obviously pay-per-click was a big source. I know for the longest time it was just basically me and Sean. I was like, who is this guy with this old lady? Right? You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was like a security title. It was like me with, I can't remember her name. And she's got glasses on and she's got like the hair bunned up, whatever.
Yeah, so, she still rocks it, man. I'm telling you. That lady knows her business.
And so pay-per-click was a big source of it. Do you know what, I think direct mail was a big piece.
Direct mail, we were doing a lot of direct mail kind of stuff. And I mean, marketing wasn't as easy as it is now.
Yeah.
Now, it's the way that you can reach people. It's a lot faster. It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier, to set up, and you can automate it. And you can all kinds of crazy things now. But it was more of a daunting task back then, rerouting all the callbacks. I mean, and it just
very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive.
So when you were on this team, right, running these big numbers, what were you getting as acquisition, like as far as percentage goes?
10.
10.
Yeah, I was running at 10%.
10%. Okay. And then you made the decision to venture off on your own.
Yeah, after I've always been an entrepreneur, so my idea was come in and then learn from, and I even told him that right out of when we sat down when he interviewed me, but was to give it my all, give it my best, and learn and open up my own business. So I transitioned into a couple of different things after that.
Yeah, like.
Well, I opened the wholesaling business, which is Pulse Capital, and then I'm a real estate broker as well. So I have Pulse Realty Associates, yeah, and CEO Pulse, which is my organizational psychology business, and I do a lot of consulting work for industries that are not necessarily just real estate related. So that's it started as a passion project, really, and it just evolved into something different.
So I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I love organizational psychology.
Yeah.
So what is it about it that's passionate that gets passion from you?
I had to learn how to do when I had the transportation company, because there's a lot of logistics that go into it. I had to learn how to develop systems around it and automate it, right? I couldn't drive 2 vehicles at once, and I started as a solo, just one dude with one phone, one van, and then got a contract, and just things got crazy. So I had to figure it out really quick, and I started putting systems together, and it worked out. And I think that's where I got the I knew that I loved setting up automations. I mean, some people like playing video games. I mean, I just like to mess around with how can I make it easier. I have a really good friend of mine, Jason, and he would look at the stuff that I would put together, and he was like, "Man, this is just complicated. Only you understand it," because I would understand the flow, but when I was trying to convey it, it was hard to train and all that stuff. So he instilled this idea of the easy button, right? So now every time I look at a business process, every time I look at anything that I want to put together, that I want to delegate or automate, one of the two, I started with I reverse engineer it, and then I think of the easy button every step of the way. Okay, how can I cut a step? How can I make this easier? How can I make it faster? How can I make it run leaner? And to me, I mean, it's just I like doing that. It raises the bottom line of every business. You spend less, you train less, there's less attrition, people are happier. It's like the magic pill, man, for happiness and culture in business, I think.
Again, you're selling something I think it's really hard to sell. I don't think anyone gets excited about this stuff. But we were talking about before we started, was that it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like this is the EMyth, right? Like you basically help people create this EMyth. You're like Michael Gerber, walk into their business and just optimizing their business. So one example I like to use, it's on a when you go to a psychologist, or somebody goes to a psychologist, they sit down and then they tell the psychologist their problems. It happens the same way. It just happens with businesses. So I come in as an organizational psychologist and look at the way the operation is running, see what happens, see make sure that the people and the systems operate well. A lot of times this is happening. So you have a conflict between the two of them, and it's just not matching. But whenever you're able to connect them and interlace them properly, I mean, it's just everything starts flowing. And I love that. Just the fact that I can come in and then figure it out. It's kind of like it's a good challenge. I like that's what's rewarding.
It's rewarding. Yeah, and getting paid, of course. But
absolutely. So I imagine we've talked to multiple wholesalers. I mean, we're friends with a lot of people in town. Do you talk to wholesalers outside this market or predominantly in this market?
No, for the most part here.
Okay, so without naming any names then, what do you think are the biggest organizational issues with a lot of wholesalers that either where they are today or when starting?
Bottlenecks.
All right, so let's talk about that.
So it's very easy to start doing transactions and become a bottleneck for it doesn't matter if you're a big company or a small company. If you're a one-man shop and you're micromanaging, you're becoming a bottleneck. Not creating enough leaders within the company that either because you're giving them the tools to operate and the freedom to operate, or because you're just breathing down people's necks. And I see that happening quite a bit. But what happens is that you come to a bottleneck. Take acquisitions or marketing, for example. All right, I'm going to do all the marketing because I want to get it done right. And then marketing comes in, and then I'm going to do all the locking because I want to get it right. Nobody can, lock the same spreads that I can, $25,000 at average. And then what happens? Yeah, you're so busy locking that you can't dispo. You're so busy marketing that you can't lock, and you just become bottleneck. So whenever you have something that doesn't flow, that it's not, I repeat the term linear. It's the something should come in on this side and monetize on this side, and just flow like that. Yeah. Instead of having bottlenecks every other step. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
So inability to delegate effectively.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from fear of people not being able to perform. Which, if you take another level deeper, it comes from lack of operating systems. I mean, not having a good and I want to make this emphasize on this. There's a difference between what's protocol and what an operating system is. So an operating system helps you with the heavy lifting, right? Yeah. And then the protocol and the process, it's instructions. So that still has to be managed. When you have an operating system, a lot of that management is done by you or done by the system itself. I'm sorry. Yeah. So and this is an industry that's not, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting a little bit more regulated. We're seeing that, we're seeing that change in a couple of states. But it's not a common business model. Right. Right now it's gotten popular. Over the last couple of years. Yeah. Everybody and their moms now wants
everyone wants to be wholesaler.
Yeah. And but I think there's a lack of simple and effective and efficient systems.
So. Yeah. All right, that's great insight. So you mentioned you're a real estate broker, which I think is crazy. But how much traditional business are you doing?
I don't do a lot anymore. For the most part, it's running the brokerage and broker stuff. As far as, however, one big upside to doing a lot of marketing on the wholesale side is that if you can't monetize it as wholesale, you pivot and then you push and list it.
Absolutely.
So we get leads like that all the time.
What's crazy? I remember I was visiting Brent Daniels' office, right? We're hanging out. He's a stunning homes agent. Don't steal him. So we're hanging out, and we look across the hall. I was like, Pulse.
Yeah, I know this guy.
I didn't at the time. I didn't put two and two together because I thought you were still at West USA or
right.
Yeah. So I didn't know that you had finally opened your thing. I was like, Pulse. I wonder what this thing is.
Pulse really, yeah.
So it's crazy that you just. I don't know. Did you know when you picked that spot, you were picking a spot across from Brent?
No, it was funny because it was the only office they had available. Yeah. And it was just
of all spots,
right across the hall from Brent. And yeah, man, we hit it off. It was a super cool dude to work with. I love working. I don't get a lot done when I go into the office, but it's fun, man.
He's an incredible guy. Incredible.
Yeah. That's off.
So what does your organization look like today?
Are you talking about wholesale?
Wholesale.
So it's running off of my platform, which the operating system. I do the marketing. And I set it up at the beginning of the month, and it just runs automatically. So it'll take me maybe an hour to kind of, filter what I want to hit that month, and then automate it. Let it run. It all comes into the operating system. I have I just brought on another acquisitions guy, but we're up to 5 guys, and I'm gonna cap it off there. And they come in and they work the process, just the operating system process, and they start locking deals and everything. So aside from that, it's a dispo, but it's a pretty lean. It's a lean model.
So 5 acquisition guys,
right?
And they get paid.
Yeah.
Per part of the deal.
Percentage
of the deal.
Yeah. So they start at 15 and they'll build up to 20%.
Okay. Yeah. And then you have a disposition.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's another disposition guy.
Well, there was up to Rafael Cortez. Right. He was up to 2 weeks ago, and then it didn't pan out well. So I started jumping in out 2 weeks ago. So yeah, right now I'm actually hiring a dispo guy. If you know anybody, but so I need a dispo guy. but the model itself it's right now we just started doing it's something I should have done a while back, but I started doing weekly meetings, which is
You weren't doing weekly meetings?
no, because we hadn't really built up the traction yet. So
Dude, you helped Sean build out his weekly meetings.
Yeah, that was fun. But so we were following KPIs, but not doing training on weekly meetings.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm incorporating into it. So like the guys have access to me, and we'll talk about a deal and break it down, and then okay, this is what we can do, and we all learn that way. But I don't think there's nothing like having a formal sit down with actual training on a weekly basis. So besides the KPI meetings and the team meetings, I mean, we're doing weekly trainings. Which I think it's going to be a big change.
Gotcha.
So
5 acquisition guys, one soon to be disposition guy.
Right.
Anybody else?
No, not for the wholesale.
Any virtual assistants?
No, I had a couple of virtual assistants, didn't pan out too well. I actually got rid of my my cold calling guys. I had 3 of them lined up, and I'm doing somewhat of a different model right now, and I took this off of. I think I talked about it with Scott. But it's based on merit, right? So basically, I have at any point in time, there's over 200 leads that we can work from people who they've called back to some type of reach, some type of marketing. So not all of them are qualified leads, but for example, what the acquisition guys go into the lead bucket, and then they'll start working the lead, they'll see it, and then if it's a lead, they'll convert it. If not, it'll take them 30 seconds to just suppress it, right? But they have the ability to pick 50, 40, 100 leads if they want to. They just have to work them. Otherwise, it will revert back to the open bucket. And what I'm seeing is that there's motivation behind it. So you'll see like the guys that come in and then work 2 or 3 leads a day, and then the guy that just went all out and 40 leads and he's closed 3 deals. Like I have one of the guys. He's last week he closed 2 deals. The week before that, he closed another one. So, I mean, it's stuff that, that's happening because, he's just putting in the work. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just, I thought it was an interesting model. It was worth a shot. And it seems to be working well so far. I am going to bring in support and then just, do lead gen to help out with leads and do maybe a combination of the two. I just think it's a really interesting.
So having them go over it versus having a lead manager do the follow-up. Right. Interesting.
And it's when you have the wrong lead manager and you have that first point of contact with the seller, I mean, you can also lose them, really quick. And these guys already know what they're talking about, so they I mean, it just made sense. And that's how I worked with when I was with Sean. I mean, it just give me a direction, and people better get out of my way because I'm gonna just run fast and crush it. So I mean, that's the kind of people that I want to work with, right? Yeah. And so far it's been. People who don't work, they filter themselves out real quick. So
yeah, self-deselect. Yeah, it's a great process.
Yeah.
So what are the best lead sources for you right now?
The best resources right now are foreclosures. We're seeing a lot more of those than we were maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, I read that this morning in the news.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I have it set up so we get as soon as a foreclosure hits, automatically gets funneled into our lead bucket, and then it just becomes available to be worked.
How are you doing that?
Magic.
It's pretty good.
Through the operating system. No, we actually one of the sources I use for that, it's Property Radar.
Okay. So Property Radar would just kick it into Podio? Right. It'll into my Podio. Max, we need to make that happen.
I told Max about it the other day.
Oh, he didn't tell me.
So yeah, I think I showed him the operating system. But yeah, so just having the ability, to push it right away, and it's as soon as they hit, they're ready for the guys.
Speed the lead.
Yeah, and then they open it. It's click to call. It's right there. It's beautiful. Yeah. So that campaign it's very cost effective. It's cheap.
So you do click to call. You don't do Mojo.
Right. I was doing Mojo with the cold callers, and I call it off. It's just pricier.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So using CallRail or a smartphone?
Smartphone.
Okay.
Yeah, I just switched actually. It was a recommendation from one of my mutual friends.
Yeah.
And
for you guys listening, smartphone is SMRT.
SMRT, yeah. Phone.
Yeah.
So I switched to that, and then it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tracking, the integration is it's also build it into Podio and all that. So
Yeah.
you can connect and plug it in very well. So yeah, my platform where I run it, it's a Podio platform. So yeah, I went off on a tangent. What was the question?
Pre-foreclosures?
Pre-foreclosures, right? It's a that for me, it's a very cheap campaign, and it's hottest leads, so pre-foreclosures.
Very low cost.
Yeah, low cost. It's as long as you work them, you're fine. And aside from that, it's really a numbers game for me, not necessarily picking the right winner when it comes to what's the list source that you're gonna blast out and hit. It's a numbers game. I mean, the more people that you make contact with, the better response they're gonna have. Results.
So pre-foreclosures, but you're not doing direct mail. You're not calling probate.
No, I'm not doing direct mail right now. What I'm doing is RVM, voicemail drops, and SMS.
Yeah.
So yeah, between that, I mean, that's my marketing, and it's pretty, automated. It's easy to set up. You turn it on. If we get, for example, we get a bunch of leads in our lead bucket, I just pause it. And then, after the guys start, going through the leads.
Yeah.
You'll
pause it?
Yeah, I'll pause it.
Even if there's no cost to it?
Yeah, because I don't want to get, saturated with leads that the guys are not working yet. So you know what I mean?
I know I hear what you're saying. It's just one of those things as an organization, it's always hard to turn off.
No. You're talking about the foreclosure ones. Those I don't pause.
Okay.
When I'm talking about the RVM and the voicemail, the
Gotcha.
SMS and all that stuff is going to cost.
Yeah.
So that stuff, so if we're saturated with leads, I'll pause that.
Gotcha.
And, a day or two, and then, leads come, back down, and then turn it on. And then it's just open up the funnel again. And start hitting them.
So I think a big thing here, because, you're talking about organizational psychology, and you're obsessed with optimizing your organization. Yeah. So you built out your own Podio. Yeah. So I talked about how that experience and how it's benefited you.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Complete game changer, at least for me. Like I said, it's the whole purpose of doing that was to get rid of the bottlenecks, and I was bottleneck at every pit stop. It was me.
Yeah.
All right, cool. There's only I got to go on appointments, but I want to turn on the marketing, but I got to dispo this. So I'd be dispoing from the car, and classic stuff that we all go through. So when I started messing around with Podio and the workflows in the back end and just putting all that stuff together, it all right, cool. If I combine these two things, it's gonna save me, I don't know, 5 minutes. So I build it out. I used to spend about, to run a decent analysis on a property, anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes looking at comps, looking at the area, thresholds for offers and all that stuff. So with what I build, my guys can do it. They can do it the way that I do it based on my parameters. The exact same process. Basically, I took the way that I do it and put it into a system. And all they do is type in an address, and wait a couple seconds, and they'll get a full analysis, right out with, comps, with thresholds, one-click contracts. So I have a cool story. It's I was working when I first put it into motion. And I built in the contracts, that automation. I had a client, and I brought him from leads bucket. And I had the guy. I called the guy, and I had him on the phone, and we were going over it, and over the deal, the scenario. So the guy wanted to sell. I clicked the button, and it created an analysis, right? So I move on to the analysis side, and all the numbers are there. I am with the guy maybe a total of about 15 minutes. So I'm going through the conversation. He wanted an offer right there and then. Well, send me an offer, and he gave me his email address and everything. And so well, give me a second. And I'm working, some numbers, and we went over just a brief conversation. I clicked the button, generated the contract, sent him an offer. He was sitting in his computer, so he got it. He signed it and sent it back. So I had a signed contract within 12 minutes, and that's from first point of contact, lead gen, to the actual contract being back and signed by the guy. Property analysis, right offers, and all that stuff. It was beautiful.
And you got the whole executed contract.
Yeah.
Back within your Podio.
Right. Went straight back into the deal. And since then I built other stuff like one-click escrow. You know how you have to put all that info together, like seller's phone. To me, I hate doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I build it in. I also build it into anything I don't like doing. I'll automate it through that. But that's
awesome.
If it's not, something like that, people should consider at least, operating in a similar way with whatever platform they choose. But
right, and you're moving human error.
Right, that's the biggest thing.
And humans really.
Yeah. Well, biggest example is in contracts.
Yeah.
Like it's. I mean, how many shitty contracts have you seen?
Shitty contracts?
Yeah.
Is it bad offers or poorly written?
No, poorly written. Where everything is. I mean, it's not legible. It's a bad copy. I mean, it's just the clauses are off, and stuff like
6 times.
Yes. Right. So for example, right now on I have six pieces of information that I need. Mm-hmm. They can't mess it up because they're doing it on the contract generator, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll type in that stuff, click a button, and then the contract's populated. But they're not gonna omit, skip, or anything like that because everything's in one simple little spot. So just having that thought process behind it. And like that was a bottleneck. Cool. I'm going to send you an offer. Perfect. We agree on a price. And then you have a bottleneck that you can't all right, I got to send three contracts, but I'm going to go to dinner with my family and I'm going to be back at 8. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be 9. I don't want to send the email that late. And then, next thing you know, you're 24 hours late on that contract that you could have just, clicked and sent.
Right.
So that's a bottleneck being removed.
That's huge. So let's go to some of these questions. Christopher Reed wants to know your purchased property with a VA loan that has a second mortgage as well. His first contract. Congratulations, Christopher.
Hey, congrats.
So you want to answer that?
So he has a VA loan on the first, and what is the second?
It just says has second mortgage.
Has a second mortgage?
Yeah.
So second mortgage on a VA loan. Well, the VA loan, and he wants to do seller financing on it. Did he mention anything?
Wholesale it.
He wants to wholesale it?
I think it's a simple answer. It's no need to overthink it. It's his first contract.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I was going into a rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for taking me out. Yeah. No, it doesn't matter if it's a VA loan. You can still wholesale it. Make sure the numbers make sense, and work your thresholds.
Yep.
Yeah. Straight.
And then Ramon Batanzas wants to know, what are you using for SMS?
SMS. There's a platform called Slingshot they can use.
For SMS?
Yeah. It's SMS and RVM. It does both.
Okay, that's different than, because I thought you were using Roar.
It is. It's part of the Roar platform too.
Oh, so okay. And then William Baker wants to know, do you do digital marketing like pay-per-click SEO or YouTube?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So going back to here, so pre-foreclosures, pulling data. Are you pulling data right now?
Yes, I am. I do. I pull data on a regular basis.
And then what are you using for skip tracing?
I actually have a license where I can pull data, my own data with numbers on it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of companies out there that are really good when it comes to the quality of the skip tracing. Batch, is one of them. Mm-hmm. And I just pull. I pull volume, so
yeah.
So I'm able to pull my own data from there.
And then we talked about doing $1 million a year, 3 consecutive years, which is really sexy.
Thank you.
What are you doing right now?
I did it on a V-neck too. What am I doing right now?
Yeah. What kind of volume are you doing today?
Volume, we're on average anywhere from 5 to 8 deals.
5 to 8 deals a month?
Yeah, I think that's going to ramp up here pretty quick with the new stuff that I'm putting out there.
And what kind of, what's your average fee?
Well, we're closing on one that's $20K. Average fee is it's going to be about 17, between 17 and 20. Yeah. My average closing is about 26,000 spreads. That was my average is when I go negotiate.
And you said that you're ramping up some big things. You want to talk about those things?
Yeah, in terms of trainings and just empowering more, the people that I have within the company. So it's not, I've been so focused on building the operating system and making all that, work seamlessly that like right now we're using it. But when you throw in the mindset side of things, that's just a game changer. It's something that I've been neglecting, not because of a choice, but just because I've been saturated with other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I want to get more into. And I think that's going to be a game changer too. So.
Gotcha. How are you disposing properties right now? I know that that's your seat again, or you're in that seat again. Yeah,
I'm back in that seat. So the process for dispo, it's pretty. I hardly ever really blast them out. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I sell them within a day or two. I have a tight list of buyers that I go to all the time, mm-hmm. and these guys usually pick it up. Yeah. So I do. My buyers list it's close to 50,000. So I'll send out a few properties to the full list, but for the most part they get sold in that first leg of the dispo.
Gotcha. That's within Podio?
Yeah.
You're not calling these people?
No.
Okay.
No. So I have it set up where you get a property, click a button, and they get a text with link.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like 5 people, 8 people in that first
no,
one?
I think it's about 18 people. Yeah, it's about 18 people.
Gotcha. What are you spending monthly on marketing?
Peanuts. Really, it's not. I mean, it depends on how heavy I want to go on the RVM and SMS, but I mean that's really cheap too. So
yeah, it's really cheap.
Yeah,
we love that. So then, what's your monthly overhead?
I would say
just all your expenses combined.
This is what I do. This might be interesting for listeners. It's so I throw out 1,000 numbers, right? 1,000, like when I turn on a campaign, I run it for a couple of hours and it throws out 1,000 contacts a day. That's it. Boom, steady, boom, 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 boom. Reason for it, because I can track the, it's just easier if you stay consistent and carry that, a few months, quarters. You can track the ROI, you can track, and right now it's giving us enough volume on leads that it's dripping. So I'll send out 1,000 and on average I'll get about, 200 responses back. They're not, disclaimer, they're not all qualified buyers,
right.
Or sellers. I'm sorry, but we are getting fairly good response from that. So I'll send out 1,000 on the daily, and SMS, RVM, and then the budget for that. I mean, it's a couple $1,000s a month. Yeah, and it depends on how heavy, what list you're hitting, wherever where you're getting your sources from.
So you're not doing like on a daily blast. You're doing like you're saying beginning of the month. I'm going to send out 1,000 a day.
I turn it on.
This month.
Yeah. So for example, I'll get a campaign of 20,000 numbers, and I'll turn that on, and then it just it drips. So I don't have to touch it. I touch it at the beginning of the month.
And you're doing that all within Podio? Or within another
platform? No, that's the other platform. So I set up the marketing the other platform, but all my KPIs are tracked through Podio.
Is that within Slingshot, where you say I want to do 1,000 a day? You want to hit 1,000?
Oh yeah. It's yeah. So I turn that on, and I have it. So you can throttle it, right? And you turn it on. You want more delivered, less delivered. So I have I pick about 5 numbers that I'm sending from, and I set the throttle at about 125. And it'll give me about 1,000 drops a day if I run it from for like 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a pretty consistent pace, and the cool thing about it is that I can turn it on, turn it off. It's so easy to set up. I mean, it literally takes me minutes at the beginning of the month to set up the marketing for the month, and just let it roll.
Daniel Prito wants to know: are you pushing all your leads through IVR, or are you doing a live answer?
We were doing live answer, but I got rid of the cold callers. So right now they're just going into my lead buckets.
As voicemail or IVR?
Voicemail.
Voicemail.
Yeah. I'm not using IVR. I haven't tried that, so I don't know if it works or not.
Yeah. Andrew Ruiz wants to know how much you're spending in skip tracing monthly.
I don't skip trace because I just pull my own data. So it's already attached.
It's already included?
Yeah. I get cell phones with it.
Abdul Rahman wants to know, are you going to have that system available for everyone to purchase? I'm guessing he's talking about your Podio.
The operating system, yeah. Yeah, it will. Yeah. I still want to fine tune a couple of little things, more on the KPI side. All the functionality is set, but I don't want to put something out that I'm going to have to go back and then retweak it on every account. So my
fear is just managing it.
Yeah.
Right. Supporting it. Because you're going to have to make tweaks for each state.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that's your prerogative.
We're working on that. Yeah. But it's going to be a version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the SMS message that you're sending out on your blast?
Super simple, man. I mean, I've tried the very, professional. Have you ever gotten like one of those voicemail drops and it sounds like a freaking cop's trying to buy your house? Hi, this is, Eddie, and I want to buy your property. I mean, it's.
I don't listen to them. I just see them on my Google Voice.
I like to because I just want to see what's out there.
Yeah.
But
I get the text messages.
But I've tried. I tried. Yeah, sorry. I've tried. So I've tried the very professional. This is this company whatnot, and I tried the very simple kind of, with background noise and just like in the car, and that works a lot better than the professional stuff for voicemail drops. And then the text message, it's a follow-up message, and it's basically telling people, hey, listen, I just called you, I left you a voicemail. Please give me a call back whenever you have a second.
I've heard someone say like they intentionally will have a baby crying in the background.
I don't know about it. Yeah,
because it sounds like this is a mom trying to make a deal, like do a business, support herself.
Yeah, no, I don't like those dark tactics. I like to make it simple, but
Matt Smith wants to know: do you have a better time and day for your drops?
Time and day, afternoon works better for me.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot better response than when I dropped like at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So, just early evening.
And how often are you switching phone numbers?
Usually about every 45 days.
So going back to, your passion, what is your why? What's driving you today?
Rabbit hole. I love that question, man. It's I've gotten criticized sometimes for doing, what the hell are you doing this week?
Mm-hmm.
I'm known for having a lot of multiple projects going on, but I commit to each one of them. Every time I'm very curious, and if I decide to go into something, I'll commit to it. Now I've thought about, the reason, am I compensating? I come from a very humble background. I grew up in a mobile home, so it's not, I thought about that, when I was, like, where's all the drive and the wanting to do things, where's that coming from? So I was talking to one of my mental coaches, Al Fuente, super cool guy, I love you, and he helped me find the why, the essence of the why, which in reality to me it's three different things, right? So it's one, it's understanding my truth, who I am, what I stand for, and then why I operate, and then what the purpose is. So it's all three different things, and that's how I see it. But for example, my why is because I want to better my way of life. I want to contribute. I want to give back. I want my kids to do I wanted to inspire them to do better than what I'm doing, right? And that's a great why. But at the end of the day, it's really because why not?
Right.
Like, because I can. It's just a beautiful life, man. Why waste it away with worries and like, can you do better? Yeah, why not? It really comes down to something that simple.
Well, you're not the only one that gets blasted for it, because that's the same thing with me.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I want to do what I want to do? It's like, I don't know. I just want to.
Yeah, I want to. Like,
I just want to dominate. Like, I don't know why I want to dominate.
I don't know if I can drop F-bombs with it, but it's because I effing can, and that's a desire. Why put it out? If it's a flame, it's a fire, it's something that's burning within you, man, by all means, go all out.
Insatiable desire to dominate.
Well, that, and it's, I don't think it's so much the dominating for me.
That's me.
More than, you're very competitive. More than the contribution side of things. But to me, it's exciting. I'm super curious. If I have anything that I think I'm like, that's gives me the edge, is that I'm always curious. And the better I get as a person, the more books I read, the better my mindset is. It's expanded, and the cooler stuff, the cooler people, the cooler experiences that I get to have, right? And then what happens when you're wise just because you can? It's self-empowering. You're not really attached to something else, to another, depending on a result and something else to keep that why going. And then what happens is that when you start growing and discovering a lot of stuff happens that you didn't even consider. And I'll speak for myself. Yeah. Like, wow, man, I wasn't really expecting that. Hell, I'm sitting here with you. Yeah. And it's totally unexpected. And it's amazing, man. It's so that's a beauty of just operating out of a sense of personal power. Mm-hmm. And why? Because you can. Because why the hell not?
Absolutely. Why not? What is your biggest struggle right now?
Biggest struggle. I think I have a tendency to put a lot of things on my plate at the same time. Mm-hmm. and they don't necessarily fall off, but sometimes I'll lose attention on one of them. For example, like right now, I know I have to get back into the developing the brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
So my operating system, my Pulse Capital business is it's set up, and that's a machine, and that that's going well. My organizational psychology thing is CEO Pulse is it's also picking traction too. Mm-hmm. But I know I have to go back into giving a little bit more love into that one. So I mean, to me, it's one of the things that I struggle with is it's just being able to put myself in all the spots. So, I was gonna say something else and I lost the train of thought. I don't know what it was.
But too many passion projects.
Right. Too curious.
So what would you say is your superpower? To build the easy button. Just automate things. Optimization.
Yeah, I like that. It's fun.
What is your favorite, best, or most interesting failure?
Failure. I've had a bunch. I've started I've tried to start businesses and they didn't go, or I stopped it halfway through it because of policy change or alternating stuff. But I guess in terms of wholesale, I can think of one deal. It wasn't. Usually, you want to make money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on that one, I ended up right. I ended up bringing money to the table to close it, and it wasn't. It was a lady in Sun City West. So we had the terms of the payoff. So we worked the numbers, and she was going to get $5,000 at the end of it. She was moving into a adult care facility, and at the end of it, the payoff was different, and she wasn't going to make those $5K. So I scratched off, the couple $1,000s. It went from being about an $18,000 deal to a couple thousand, which was okay with the payoff, but she was going to be upside down on the $5,000. She was still going to get money, but I ended up bringing like $800 just to make sure that she got the $5,000 out of it.
Yeah.
And so I put money into that deal.
Wow.
But she was a super nice lady.
Is there any book that you've gifted more than any other?
Yes. Psycho-Cybernetics and The Alchemist. Those books, I mean, to me they're very. We were talking about personal power and self-image earlier, mm-hmm. and the perspective on both of those books on what is purpose and then how you see yourself. It's game changer.
Yeah.
So
all right. So I'm going to let you think about one last thought you want to leave everybody with while I make a couple of quick announcements.
Cool.
So guys, we're 3 weeks away from the workshop that Max and I are doing. 2-day workshop in September. Again, we are limiting access to a select group of people. So see if you qualify for the workshop in Phoenix, please go to disruptors.com. And then I'll be speaking in Houston, October 4th through 6th for Wholesaling Live. If you want to go to that, go to wholesalinglive.com and put in RED for 25% off. I'll also be in Biloxi, Mississippi for Real Estate Roundup Live with Brent Marino and Adam Johnson, October 25th to 27th. If you want to check that out, go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/RER live. And then what was announced this past weekend, I'll be also speaking in New Orleans with Chris Rude. That's Grant Cardone's wholesale guy. That's December 6th through 8th. So if you guys want to hang out in New Orleans, Louisiana, which I bet would be pretty fun, that's December 6th through 8th. And then next week, we do have Franco Milan. He's going to be talking about how he's wholesaling 10 plus deals a month in multiple states. He's running a crazy, crazy big operation. I got to check out his office a month and a half ago to check out one of their meetings. And it's just nuts what they're doing over there. So with that, all that being said, what's the last thought you want to leave the audience with?
In any business, not just real estate, I mean, just doing the right thing, and then by your clients. I think it's one thing that we have this stigma about wholesalers, right? Mm-hmm. Like, no, they're just out there about vultures, but there's a lot of good that can come from creating a win-win.
Yeah.
And I think it's not something that's completely emphasized, but doing that, you can make a lot of money and still do the right thing.
Yeah.
And be transparent with people. A lot of people are afraid of, for example, getting real estate licenses because they're wholesaling. And as long as you have transparency and you disclose and you do things right, there's no reason for anybody to be afraid, to keep it keep yourself accountable or your company accountable like that. So
Awesome. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
They can shoot me an email at rc@thepulsegroup.net or find me on Instagram at raphael.ceopulse, Pulse.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro.
Fun
Appreciate
show.
the invite.